Thanks for joining us this week on DesignWorks TV. We're going to be talking about some of the great new features in DesignWorks 2022. So let's get started. This is a part we created that you normally don't see people doing work on because it's got tools and features like the real world. So this has chamfers on the bottom, it's got fillets on it, chamfers on areas where you have all kinds of problems building features. With DesignWorks 2022, we've got a complete new set of tools in the extrude window to help you check your mesh, but also build features and extend and cut. So let's go get started. So if I'm using mesh features, I'll select the mesh features tool. And we normally build this. We'd go ahead and we'd paint the bottom. And the reason why I paint the bottom, we're going to constrain it to a plane. Let's turn off this these non-visible. So we're going to be using the normal painting. And we're going to click on the bottom, left click. So it identifies something here. And if I want to make this a plane, I can make it a plane or make it a surface plane. I'm going to just make it a plane. So the reason why we're doing this, we want to constrain this. So unlike other products who don't constrain and you create this extrude, you got to spend time as the CAD guy going back to the feature tree, editing the feature, constraining it, it's crooked, reconstraining it. We thought that was just a waste of time. So now we have this constraint plane. We're going to leave it on normal, and we're going to left click on here, and we're simply going to drag it around here and identify this. So you can control this by keeping this in the middle. You can control it, pretty nice. But let's say you've got an issue where it was a casting and it had some bad data in here. You can switch to the brush by hitting B for brush or selecting it here, and you could hit the plus key or minus key to make it how big you want, or the Q key to drag it. So let's say this had a bad spot right in that corner and maybe up here. It's okay to paint with two different type of methods. And the rest of the way, we'd say let's go back to normal. Kind of come over here and do this. So again, you can paint any way you want, or you can even come back and say, oh, I shouldn't have painted that way. Go to the brush. Hold down the control key. You can take stuff out. Again, maybe there's an area there that's bad. So there's no right or wrong way. So we're going to continue to paint on here. Switch to normal. And this is something you're already doing in 2021, but we want to show you some new features. Now we're going to constrain this, but we've got an issue. You can see where we painted this. There's no way to identify the chamfer on the bottom. Well, DesignWorks has a new tool inside this extrude window that nobody else in the world is using. So we're going to actually constrain this to the bottom. And at this point, I may want it to go a little taller. So I'm going to switch to brush. This is what's part of the things that are new. I'm going to pick this top, and I'm going to go ahead and say extrude. A new dialog box is going to come up that's going to allow you to investigate the mesh. And we're going to be able to drag this around and resize it and do whatever we want. So right now it's just investigating it. This is a new DesignWorks extrude tool. It's to let you interrogate what you're doing instead of having to go back afterwards it's built to find out, oh, by the way, I didn't want to draft and things like that. So this top part, pretty much going to leave alone. It's your settings. How do you want the sketch created? So if I'm going to create this, in this case, I want lines and arcs. I want a solid. Here's where the investigation becomes real handy. It's got a 0.041 draft. Meshes aren't parallel or perpendicular, and we never know if they have a draft. But if you want to constrain this, you come up here, put in 0. Here you can also control where the extrude starts and stops. This is something nobody else does. They can do a feature, and if you've got fillets and chamfers on it, you got to go back and edit the feature. So let's go ahead at this point If you wanted to, there's two ways to do this. If you wanted to actually change other things in here, you would say recompute. This lets you continue changing. Now, if you didn't want to change anything else, you could just accept it. This is almost like a rebuild in SOLIDWORKS. It's rebuilding the function that you used. And if you don't want to rebuild it, you can actually just say complete. But we chose to rebuild it because we might want to change other things. So now you can see it has a draft of 0. In this case, I like where it's starting and where it's ending. You got a red dot, blue dot. Tells you the custom value. At this point, you can say accept. So what this did for you, instead of just creating the feature, it actually went past the feature down to the constraint plane, like we told it. And we also told it to go higher. There's no other product in the world doing anything like this. You would actually, with other products, you accept this, then you, the SOLIDWORKS or inventor guy, would have to go back and modify it in a tree. Well, we don't want to do that. So we did that in that new window for you. So you can see it started at the bottom, did the extrude, and if you interrogate the solid, say edit feature, you'll see the draft is 0. So that's some all new tools in DesignWorks 2022. It's really cool. So let's continue building the model. We just want to make sure that when you're renewing your maintenance, that you're seeing what you're getting for your money. So many other companies, they want you to renew your maintenance or subscription, and they don't do nothing. Well, we try every year to actually invest at least 25% back into R&D. So for here, I'm going to go ahead, and this tool's been improved as well. Normal painting, you'll notice it's smarter. It'll paint to the edges better. And like in here, there's a fillet. It'll jump around some of this. So we're going to actually build this, but here's where you'd use like the loft extension. I need this to go out past this edge, so I'm going to actually turn this up quite a bit. And then you also could constrain it. I don't have any planes here, but I could constrain this to a plane if I wanted to go from left to right, from like top to bottom, how I want to control the curves. I'm going to take the default, which in this case would probably be the longest side. And then up here we could also say, hey, how many sections do you want? The more you put in here, the more accurate. So if you have to rebuild it and you see there's so many areas that are out of your tolerance, you just add more cross sections. We'll tell it to go ahead and do a loft. So this is going to process and build our loft. And you'll see up here it's telling you how many sections it's going to build. The great thing about this product for you, the end user, is we use this on a daily basis. Last year we did over 2,000 projects. So we're using it. So as we're using it, we're like you. We're like, why did we do that? Why does it take so long to do that? When we have those kind of issues, that's why we do the improvements. That's why this extrude dialog box that I showed you when we built the extrude there is so important. It helps you spend less time working on the features and then building models instead of going back and editing the tree, editing the feature, and even sometimes taking sketches and with some other products and projecting them down to the right plane, and it just goes on and on. So if you've never used another product or seen other products, it's really hard for you to appreciate it. But if you use other products, the people that use DesignWorks, they're always constantly calling us, wow, that's a great enhancement, because they've had to, do it the painful way. So this is just about done. And again, by picking more cross sections, it could take a little longer. If they're less, it would take shorter time. You just got to see what's the most accurate methodology for your use. We've only did, a few in here, 15 sections, so we can move on. But if you really need a detail, you can say 20, 30, whatever. So there's our loft. Now you can build multiple features. In this case, I'm going to export it because I want to trim some things off. But you don't have to do this one at a time. The other great thing you're going to notice is DesignWorks doesn't write this out and say, oh, imported body or something over here. This is actually a boundary surface and actually puts all the cross sections in it so you can actually modify it. So many other products just say, oh, imported feature. It's like, what are you supposed to do with it? You can't. You can't modify or change it. With DesignWorks, you can change this all day long. Here's all the cross sections. You could edit and change if you needed to. So I've edited it, and now I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to simply, we could hide this mesh. Now you could use the cut tool, cut that off. We're just going to simply reorder this, the solid, and we're going to edit it and say up to surface. So DesignWorks lets you make that loft longer, so you can actually now pick up to surface, or again you could have said insert cut with surface. Either way works. You can see how nice that is. Let's go back into mesh features. Let's show you a way to cut this off. This is one area we want to improve later on. As you know, you can't have an open sketch. We haven't found a way to actually close this off. I'll show you. So we're going to go ahead and pick this face with our normal and build a plane. Now we're going to pick this face here, which will be, we're going to make a surface here. But we got an issue. Again, here's where other products make you go back and edit and do all this. You have this fillet in the way. How do I tell it to get down to here? That's where in this new extrude tool, in this case also, you could go higher than just this line. But in this case, we know we're going to do this with another product, maybe a cam system or something. We're going to extend this past it. Let's go ahead here and say we're going to make a surface. And we're going to say we want to start this here. Okay. Now, just in case it's divisible by 0, I could actually even say make this longer. But I'm actually going to do that with my surface anyway. So now, by picking this constraint plane, we're going to go into the extrude tool. Again, this is all those new features that check the draft and tell you how far it'll go. You'll notice on our 4-port window, this is going to actually start down here, like it's supposed to. So notice in this window, it's showing you by constraining it down here, it told it to automatically extend this down to here. And all the other products, it'd be short. Then you'd go into the tree and you'd say edit surface and you'd pull it down. So you can do all this right here. It does have a draft. So we're actually just going to say we like it. It'll be building our surface. We're going to now save it to SolidWorks. Now here's one thing you'll notice. This is something we're looking to do later. We don't know how to close an open profile. So to build this, you'd actually delete the surface, but you'd leave the absorbed features. We simply edit the sketch, and this is where we want to do something later if we can. We don't know if we can do this. As you know, as a SolidWorks person, this needs to be a closed profile. We haven't figured a way to make this closed automatically. So we're going to trim this. And then you would just use a cut with SolidWorks. So we just say feature, and we'll just use a extrude cut. We just pull it all the way through it. So at that point, you have 90% of the hard things done. There's some other features on there, so let's go back into the Mesh Features tool and take a look. So on top, we have this slot. So let's actually tell it we want to paint here with a normal. left click, make a plane. Again, that's all your constraint. We'll leave it on the normal painting. And if you know you need to do a full extrude, you do need to paint all of it. Some of the features don't have to be painted continuously, but something for the extrude does. So there's our extrude. Now remember on the tree, we had saved some of that for heights. So we can go ahead here and use the extrude tool. Now see here, I forgot to do the constraint. So you can cancel. Sometimes it takes a second. We're working on make this cancel working better and better. We need to constrain that. Now, if we don't constrain it, in some cases it's not off very far. But if you want exact geometry, you should try to cancel this. Okay? We were talking. So now it's going to use that plane that we created. And if you zoom out, you'll see it notifies you where it's at. We'll go ahead and say extrude now that's constrained. And we've added another tool that you're already familiar with in SOLIDWORKS. Now, if we normally just cut that with what we painted on, when it intersects that loft, it could end up being divisible by 0. So what we could do here, you notice here it showed me where this is at. We could actually just say cut, and down here where it's blue, we could actually say through all. So see the little window, how it updates? You can change this through all or a value, and you'll see this all update. So think of this as red as the start point. Blue would be how it would cut through. So I'm going to say accept. So you notice it cut through it. Saves you, the user, not going back to the tree, having to do all this. Just intuitive features that are in DesignWorks 2022. Let's build a couple of these revolves down here. They have the same issue. And that's exactly why we built this. So again, here's a case. This is a double whammy. This is where if you're using some other products that aren't as intuitive as ours, you have to build a plane down here, a plane on top, then build the cylinder. Then when you got done, you'd have to edit the feature in the SOLIDWORKS tree and say up to plane, up to plane, because nobody can build features on 3 different objects. So here, we're going to go ahead and just actually build a plane, either could be on the top or the bottom. So let's say you wanted to actually make it constrained from the top. You could do that. Or we have an existing plane here we could already use. So if you click on these, you'll see where they'll show where they're at. That's the one we had on top. Here's the one there. So we could use that one. We could say use that as a constraint. And we do have a tool called curvature. It's either C or curvature. And you select it. Now again, you can see what happens here. You either can paint too far. So if you painted too far, hold down the control key and click down here. Or wipe it all out, doesn't matter. Or left click again. And you'll see it's going to be short of where it should be. So none of the other products out there can identify a feature, then say go to the top and to the bottom. But DesignWorks can. So now what we can do is tell it that we want it, in this case we told it it's going to start here. Okay? We've identified that. We can go back to the brush, actually pick this top. We may have to make it a little bit bigger. Depends on what size triangles you're using. If you can paint it. Now in this case, it's not hardly letting me paint it. So that's going to be my top. So now I can go ahead and say I want to do a cylinder. So it's on the constraint, and I'm doing a cylinder. This uses the same math window as the extrude. So you can see on the cylinder, it's starting down there on the bottom. Even though we didn't identify the fillet, it's going to the top, even though we didn't identify the chamfer, because you can't. So we'll just say accept. And we'll put this on later with SOLIDWORks. And we'll build it. So as you can see, it's super intuitive. No other product in the world does it. Now, there's an issue though. I need to put those fillets in here, and I really don't know what they are. Well, in DesignWorks 2022, you can use the feature to mesh validation and don't select anything. Just say visualize errors. This allows you to interrogate the mesh. Where before, you're normally using the mesh and the features. So we've added a new tool in here. You can mouse over this. It'll tell you the radius. It's a 369. Now sometimes you do have to zoom in and double check it and you move it around. There's a 511, 709, 368. So there'd be no other way to finding that out. 375, we'll get out of it. So now this is where you use your SOLIDWORks tools. And you would go in here and just say feature, and you're going to use your fillet tool in SOLIDWORks to go ahead and put that on. So we could do our feature there and say fillet, and then we'll fillet this. We know it's a 371, so we're going to say 0.375. Then like you normally would do, you just pick on the model and do your fillet. So now you can interrogate the mesh by using the new feature validation, and then just don't select any model. Just let it interrogate the model. So like here, we don't know what that fillet was. Just say visualize errors. Don't select any mesh. And again, sometimes you do need to zoom in. It's a 468. So it's probably going to be about a ½ inch. There you go. We'll zoom in close. ½ inch radius. You can close it. So now, again, you can go with your SOLIDWORks tools, feature, go into your fillet, 0.5, select the feature just like you do normally. In this case, I could say edge or base or whatever I want. And build your fillet. You can change that, or you could actually even say pick on here. So in this case, I actually did it wrong, but you understand it because you're a SOLIDWORks user. But this new tool allows you to do that. We'll do one more piece on here. Do this little piece on top. It has the same issue. You've got a fillet here. So when you identify this, it doesn't know where to go in all the other products. Well, with DesignWorks, with your new tools, you control it the way you want it to work. So we'll go ahead and do the constraint plane. We're going to paint on top of this, make our constraint, and then you can hide it if you like. We'll turn off the feature. We'll go ahead and paint around with the normal. So if you have a 3D connection device, you can rotate and paint at the same time. Makes it very, very handy. Hold on the left mouse button and dragging. So we have our constraint for the top, but we want to go ahead and make it down to here. So we're going to select the brush. And we can go ahead and say, this is our constraint. We want to go that deep, and we're going to make a solid extrude. So now this extrude will be down into the lofted surface. This is what none of the other products do. They all stop short. Then you have to go ahead and edit it in the tree and all that, things like that. We're just going to say accept. Turn our feature on, and we'll build it. So this saves you time going into the feature tree. Have to edit, make sure that's down there. So let's check out our work once. Let's go into feature to mesh. This time, we're going to identify the mesh to the feature. Where before, we were just checking those fillets. So you can select a feature or select Control A and do the whole thing. So we're going to say visualize airs. This is going to show you a heat map. And then we went one step further. We're going to allow you to actually click on the mesh, and you're going to have balloons pop up to show the deviation. So here we can check out our work. You get a mouse overview, plus you also get your features. And you can see by constraining this, you can make this super accurate. Now, I didn't put the chamfers and stuff on here, but you can see how accurate this really is. Remember the draft issues we've seen on there? We fixed that. So if you want to save this out, hit the S key. Saves the views with the balloons. You can save out as many as you want. And now we'll actually close this, hit the green checkbox, and we'll say create a report. So here's where you can check it. By default, ignore outliers, validation, and create Excel is on. You can merge this into one face, or you have multiple Excel cells. So I'm going to say create report and have multiple cells. So here's for phase 1, phase 2, 3. Here's all the balloons we had. Tells you each one separately. If you merge it, it'll show all of them. And then here's your image sheets. So this report is in Excel, and you can change it pretty easy. So lots of exciting tools in DesignWorks 2022 for SOLIDWORKS. We'll have more videos showing that, and we appreciate your business and have a great day.